I will ask our three panelists to come join us again. So Dr. Lee, Dr. Hayden, and Dr. Fennell. And we are a little over time, so in light of respecting all of your leisure activities for a Saturday, we'll try to limit it to a few questions, but we're hoping that we may be able to post the answers of the questions on the website in the future. So let me ask a question here. So perhaps for Dr. Lee. So one question it has to do with living well with dementia, in the sense that how can an exhausted and depressed caregiver access help when they have financial limitations and not really looking at a care home as an option? How can they approach that to help them live better with those circumstances?
Well, certainly. I mean, respecting, of course, I'm sure there are very important details that one would have to go into about the uniqueness of the situation, the reasons why perhaps care homes are not an option, or even really looking at the necessity, like what are the symptoms that would prompt one to be looking at that. I can perhaps answer a few of those things. The first thing is to say that I think going back to what we briefly covered as part of the discussion, it's important to have access to resources and supports. So I sincerely hope that this person who is writing the comment and the question has access to the appropriate help that would be required to really go through the nuances of, I think, what the situation is and help. So a couple of recommendations I would say based on what I've heard. The first is that if not already connected with their local health unit for case management, a case manager is often very helpful to help to navigate through the system, to know what resources and supports are available. People can self-refer. It doesn't have to be through a healthcare professional, although that can be facilitated through social work or physicians, but you can actually look up information online to contact directly the local health unit. The second part of what I heard is about the financial strain. I think that was also part of the issue. Looking at options such as the disability tax credit or perhaps other opportunities to support one financially in dealing with issues related to dementia. And then finally, I'll just say there is the importance of recognizing that in terms of caregiver burnout, exhaustion, depression, that is a real medical issue that I think deserves the proper attention and support. So I would hope that this person also has access to a healthcare provider that they can turn to that will be able to direct the care towards them, which obviously they deserve to have. I'll just mention that there are specific dementia support caregiver groups available, psychiatry, social work, occupational therapy. These are directed specifically to help the needs of the caregiver outside of just also the person with dementia. So I would put in a recommendation of that as well.
Thank you, Dr. Lee. A question for Dr. Hayden, more specifically guidance towards resources. So you had some excellent slides about how to manage certain behaviors, body language, issues with repetitive questioning. Other than using your slides, which are a great resource and will be available for us to see, what other websites or resources can you refer people to provide that kind of information to manage common behaviors and ways to manage them as a caregiver?
Thank you for the question. Yeah, as I said, it's complicated, but there are several websites. Obviously, the Alzheimer's Society of BC, but also the National Alzheimer's Society websites do have resources listed there. You can see additional resources in other Alzheimer's Society groups, such as the British and the Australian in particular, I find have very specific suggestions and listings for behavioral management. I'm happy to share my slides as well, of course. And if there are specific questions, because it can be quite individual, there are individual differences, and depending on the environment and the patient's symptoms, how you manage that may differ than from what's listed in just a generalized summary. So I'm happy to assist if people have questions in the future. I'm not sure if we're posting our contact information, but I'm happy to do that.
Thank you, Dr. Hayden. I don't know, is Dr. Cresswell still there? I think there's a specific question about
Yes.
the yoga. Thank you, Dr. Cresswell. Can yoga classes that are being done through your online forum now because of COVID-19, can they be recorded for future viewing in case people can't, if the schedules don't match with the yoga class schedule?
We could certainly look into that. So we record particularly educational events, but we can look into doing that as well. What we of course lose at this point is individual feedback. But having said that, that is still better than not having the yoga. And then just to say, I just spent 45 minutes running during the last 3 talks in front of my computer here. So you don't have to sit when you're in front of the screen. You can actually just get a 45-minute run in. So it's great, by the way.
Thank you, Dr. Cresswell. And last question, it's for Dr. Fennell. It's not really a pure prevention question, but sort of falls into that category. It falls also into treatment. You presented slides on the Mediterranean diet and the other various aspects of lifestyle modification impacting incident dementia. How about the ketogenic diet or the Bredesen diet protocol? What do we know about that in terms of either prevention or management of patients with Alzheimer's disease?
I would say we don't yet know enough. Excuse me. The ketogenic diet has been studied in pretty limited settings with shorter durations and usually not powered to look at cognitive outcomes. I'm sorry. But it is something that I think certainly does warrant further study. One of the issues is that it's very challenging to actually maintain that for a long period of time. So these types of biological changes are likely to be mediated over months to years. So in terms of enrolling people to actually, for example, be randomized into a ketogenic diet would be very, very challenging, but certainly it's something that is being looked at by many different investigators, and I think is something that could potentially have some benefit, but we just don't really have that information yet.
Thank you. I think we'll end the questions there just for the sake of time.